My name is Stephen Elliott Buckley. I'm from Vancouver, and I belong to Inchipe Workers Co-op. We're a consulting group based largely in Vancouver, but we have some large geographical presence, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm Kevin Harding. I'm a worker member owner, I guess. Co-ops are fun, but fun job titles of the Inchipe Workers Co-operative as well. It's a fun little group. We do strategic planning and consulting and communications and that kind of really awesome work with groups that want to make a difference in the world. I think what we get to do is a lot of fun. We work with groups that we find value alignment with, so we work with them in fun ways doing stuff that we want to do.
And they're groups, and part of me, I think, they're kind of groups that I wish I had time to belong to. So
Yeah.
there are arts groups, there's nonprofits, there's sort of social and community activist groups, other co-ops, people who are thinking about forming co-ops but don't really know all the mechanics about it. And actually it's kind of interesting too, because most of the people who are in our consulting co-op come out of a place where we all met virtually anyway. Politicsrespun.org is a political editorial website that's been going for 11 years now, and most of us who are in our consulting co-op met and online virtually, and most of us have met in person at least once. But we have rich online conversations and relationships and partnerships with how we write and our political and social activist interests. So we already had a kind of community in one kind of venue, and we've transformed that into another kind of community without having to start a corporation or a business or without somebody having to become the owner of
exactly. Yes. So there's 7 of us in the co-op, 7 individual members, and we all bring a bunch of different kinds of skills and capacities to the co-op. That's probably one of the best things about the co-op form, is that we're working together and bringing, strengths that Stephen has that I don't have, or strengths that any one of our other members have, and putting it into a mix that's fun. Historically, we've all sort of been involved in this kind of work from time to time, off the side of the desk, working with an arts group or helping another group do this or do that. And I think, at a certain point, everyone, you might be in a day job that you're not a big fan of. And it's sort of the entrepreneurial idea. You want to do something fun that's meaningful. And we got started in a conversation. We said, wouldn't it be cool if we did some of this stuff in a regularized way and really built out a practice of stuff that we like to do, working with these kind of groups, doing this kind of work on our own. And I shopped the idea around to the other members in the group, and they were all really excited about it. And the corporate form, the choice that we came to, co-op, was one that really matched with our values. The idea is that we're all equal participants in this organization. We're all bringing in skills and drawing out work opportunities, and there's the opportunity to generate some income, which of course is a huge part of an entrepreneurial activity. But we're not doing it in a way where we all had to invest a certain amount of cash just to buy an office or something, or I'm not the only one that's bankrolling it and hiring in other people. I'm not the only owner. We're all equal participants in it. The co-op form means that we all get to decide on the things that we do, the policies, the activities, the issues, rather than it being a strong fight between the shareholders or something like that.
And I think this is a group of us moving from one platform to another, from a political editorial writing platform to a consulting platform. And it's interesting how many parallels have moved over as well. One of them, I was the one who started the website 11 years ago, but I am abjectly not the editor or publisher. I don't set deadlines, I don't yell at people, I don't edit their work. It's a collaborative kind of thing. So it's sort of co-op-y in that way. And we can structure it as a co-op, I suppose, but there's no real sort of income involved, and money doesn't really exist in it. But we've moved that, and actually, there's been a wide variance in terms of what people bring to the website. For instance, some people have only started writing a little bit, some people have written a whole lot more, and their sense of what they are as a writer is different. And the exact same thing's happening in the co-op, that lots of people feel they don't have a lot of skills. Maybe they just don't actually have a lot of experience, but they're highly skilled. And so we have this huge range, and the goal with this kind of mentorship model that we're bringing in is to have people providing feedback and support for other people so that everybody's capacity can be raised. So individuals who come in who are highly underemployed, which is the majority of our members, despite being highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, with lots of experience, who can never really get work like this, we can bring up their capacity within the co-op structure and give them a much better chance at a great lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's not something you see in a traditional business company.
No.
You don't have, I mean, co-ops are organizations that are formed to meet community needs,
Yeah.
right? Historically, that's why they've existed. So what we did, we're a community of interest. We're people who wanted to have an opportunity to work in a fulfilling way, in an empowering way, and something that meant something, here instead of just in the wallet. So, yeah, we've got people who are self-described stay-at-home moms who are members that do amazing editing and communications work, and we can really tap those strengths and put them to work, strategic planning for a credit union.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a path that they'd be able to follow in the traditional business company where the only positions they might be able to interview for are like an admin clerk or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the strength of cooperating. And there's situations where I might be spearheading a project and you might be an admin worker on it or support worker, or you might spearhead and I might work on
Mm-hmm.
it. So we can shift roles around, and like you said, mentoring role. That's a great way to do it.
And also in a corporate structure, and even lots of nonprofit structures, I'm sad to say, having encountered nonprofits for most of the last 30 years, it's a zero-sum game where there's lots of internal competition,
Mm-hmm.
and my success doesn't necessarily depend on everyone else succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
My success often would depend on other people being hampered, and
Yep.
if people have
Yep.
talent, I need to exploit that talent to allow me to move up.
Yeah.
Because there's a hierarchy, or because if you gain, it's probably I might be at risk of losing something. Whereas in this model, it's
Yeah.
completely flipped on its head, where anyone else whose capacity increases, all of us get to do better, and more people have more opportunity and chances to do more work, which makes the entire group that much more capable. And instead of actually going out and competing for projects and things with people who are individuals who might be very talented, we can bring 3 to 5 people involved in something which brings up more opportunities for them to develop their capacity, but also makes us as a group much stronger because we have that much more depth to draw from.
Oh yeah, no, the idea very much is bringing together strengths for a common goal.
Yeah.
And the common goal is meaningful employment or meaningful work.
Yeah.
The common goal isn't necessarily going off and doing social media strategies. It's meaningful work.
Yeah.
And the worker co-op form is such a powerful opportunity for
Yeah.
that. You own the organization that you work for. You're all the bosses in it. You come together bringing your strengths together. You don't find that in other forms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're here at the Workers Co-op Federation Conference, because we get to meet workers co-ops from across the country, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, see how it all exists throughout Canada, because there's so much depth to the model and breadth to the model.
Do you think people know about co-ops? And what can we do to elevate the status of worker co-ops specifically?
I think most people don't have a clue what co-ops are, and the only thing they might know is that they've heard of housing co-ops, but less and less so, because CMHC is doing a lot less with housing co-ops. And then if you move past that, some people might know that credit unions are co-ops, and even if they don't know that, they might actually know that a credit union is not a bank, because the members are the shareholders, and that might probably be better, and that's probably the extent of it. And still a lot of people don't know any of that. So I think helping them understand that you can. There are lots of different kinds of things that can be co-ops.
Mm-hmm.
Restaurants, factories, consulting groups, doctors' offices, any kind of service or product that people do. I remember Isadora's, that co-op restaurant on Granville Island in the 80s and the 90s, and people could own shares, and it's like, and that was a very strange thing for me. I didn't understand how it worked, and and then it went under eventually, but I mean, that was a fluke of encountering something like that back in the 1980s, but generally people aren't aware that it's an option that's out there.
Yeah, people don't always know about the co-op. I mean, they, like you said, they might know that they buy gas at a gas co-op, or they bought food at a food co-op, but the idea behind a community coming together to provide those services for common good rather than for private wealth is something that is a story that's not told enough. And maybe when that story does get told, it does get stuck in the areas like consumer co-ops or housing co-ops. But any kind of economic or social activity can be operated on a cooperative basis. I mean, co-ops are the only form of an organization in the world that subscribe to a common international set of principles, right? 7 common international principles, no matter where you are in the world. That's what co-ops subscribe to. And one of those is education. So there's a huge amount of responsibility on the part of co-ops to share our stories and to tell people what co-ops are, and that power in working together rather than competing against each other.
And what are challenges that you guys have faced within your own co-op, and just being involved in your co-op? And what's the challenge of the co-op?
And one of the biggest challenges is one that you'll face anytime you want to start your own business. It's, do you take the really big leap and cash out your life savings and put it all down into a startup business and see what happens? Or do you sort of do it side of the desk, part-time for a while? That's the strategy that we've taken. So one of our biggest challenges is spare capacity of time to dedicate to it. We're lucky in that we have a cohesive group that's dedicated to the idea, dedicated to the model, and dedicated to the project. We just need more time to do it, is part of my theory.
And we need to build a little bit more time. We have to be intentional about that, which is really hard when we're the kinds of people who are kinds of like activists, and we're always, well, I have a spare 19 minutes per week. I'm going to take on this new volunteer opportunity. But we need to sit back and not try to rush so much forward, and take time to smell the roses and do the Rosa, what's the Emma Goldman thing about?
Oh yeah. If I can't be part of your revolution,
or if we don't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. And we're not doing enough dancing, I think. And we've only been around for like a year and a half since we started all the paperwork and things. But trying to find time to build our group and not take it for granted what our cohesion is. And we have, and one of our challenges also has to do with geography, that we've primarily been based in Vancouver, but we've had a few members, and when we started we had one person in Hamilton, one in Winnipeg. The Winnipeg person has moved back to BC, but one of our Vancouver people has moved to Auckland, New Zealand. So we now have a hard time trying to figure out how to continue gelling as a group. And it comes down to simple things about scheduling meetings and dealing with the time zones from 2 time zones in Canada and then this thing across the Pacific. So that's a hurdle. It's not a deal breaker. It's just a complication, and we'll find a way to get over that.
Yeah, we're in a much better shape than a lot of other businesses. We're cohesive. We agree on the plan and we agree on the goals.
Yeah, and we've also agreed on our commitments to each other, and the fact that a lot of people have brought in different skills and experience. It doesn't matter how little you bring in, because everybody's welcome, and the goal is to take the underemployed people and make them fully employed to the extent that they want. But it's also commitment to each other, that helping us all have a good work-life balance, and not just work, my job and my life, but my life means my family, my neighbors, my neighborhood, my community, my friends, all those things that we work for, so that we have this free time, and being able to balance all of that. And sometimes it takes time, and honestly, it's really hard to do that with a real job where you have a clock and a boss, and lots of times decisions are made in secret, and you're pulling your hair out because you don't know where to take risks or to even suggest something without getting your hand slapped or something.
Another benefit of the co-op model.
Yeah, and we're a board of everybody. We're small enough that everybody who's a member is on the board, and some larger models we've met people from across the country who are big and small, who are new and old, and who have all sorts of different hybrid structures of how to direct things. But we're in this place where we're small enough and cohesive enough that we just run everything, and it works really well.
Perfect. Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, it's been an exciting and sort of hard work in the last 18 months, though Kevin's done most of the heavy lifting with the paperwork and things. But I'm really excited about the next 2 to 5 years in terms of where we can go. And I've been involved with lots of NGOs and startup organizations in the last 20 years, and none of them had the kind of cohesion or commitment that I've seen just in the last year and a half.
Yeah, and I'd just say that if there's someone out there that is with a group of people that are thinking about starting a business and they're thinking about the potential of a co-op model, there's so much potential in owning the organization that you work for and having so much control over the work that you do day to day. If you want to start a workers' co-op, you have this opportunity to be a part of a democratic, empowering organization that can also give you a paycheck at the end of the day. It's a great way to collaboratively do it.
Workplace democracy.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
And can you just say your name?
Yeah, Stephen Elliott Buckley.
Can you spell it for me?
STEPHENLIOTT-BUCKLEY.
And can you do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Harding, KEVIN HARDING.
Perfect. So before you guys go,
yes.
I want to